US President Donald Trump has again called out Australia and its other allies over a perceived lack of support for his war in Iran. The president has twice mentioned Australia as one of the countries that hasn't come to Washington's aid in the Middle East when asked about levels of support from NATO at a media conference.
It's not just NATO. You know who else didn't help us? South Korea didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Australia didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Japan.
Let's go to our political reporter Samantha Dick, who joined us from Parliament House in Canberra. Hi, Sam. So how's the federal government responded to these comments from the US president?
Hi there, Ros. Well, the federal government has chosen not to publicly criticise US President Donald Trump over his latest singling out of Australia regarding the Middle East conflict. Now, of course, it's not the first time that Donald Trump has made statements such as this, but the Australian government maintains that its position has not changed. The Albanese government has said it is not taking offensive action against Iran and that it has no plans to deploy troops on the ground. The federal government is supporting the United Arab Emirates with the deployment of a wedge-tail aircraft to the Gulf, but says that there actually have been no formal requests for assistance from the US government. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese spoke to reporters not that long ago where he reiterated calls for de-escalation.
It's very clear that any further escalation needs to be outlined what the objective is. So we've called consistently. We haven't changed our position of calling for de-escalation. This is a conflict that is having a massive impact on the global economy, in particular having a massive impact here in Australia, as it is right around our region and right around the world.
Opposition leader Angus Taylor, meanwhile, has also been hesitant to criticise Donald Trump over his latest comments. However, he did accuse the government of not being upfront with Australians around what specifically the US government has been asking for with regards to protecting the Strait of Hormuz.
I judge the president by his actions, not by his words, and he doesn't always use the same words as I would, but that's neither here nor there in the longer term. What matters here is we get the Strait of Hormuz opened up. And I'll tell you why that matters, because that is what's driving, one of the factors driving up the price of fuel in this country. We've seen a loss of around 20% of the supply of oil that would otherwise go through the Strait of Hormuz. We need that opened up, and we need it opened up as quickly as possible. Now, it's very unclear what has been asked of Australia through the course of this. The government hasn't been transparent on that. They should be. They should be clear about what's been asked of them, and they should be clear about why they've made the decisions that they have.
Meanwhile, Sam, the PM has also confirmed he's travelling to Singapore this week as the fuel crisis continues.
That's right, Ros. So Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced that he will be travelling to Singapore this week for a meeting with Singapore's Prime Minister on Friday to help shore up Australia's supply of fuel during the Middle East conflict. Now, the two Prime Ministers recently signed an agreement to maintain the flow of LNG and fuel between the two countries amid the ongoing conflict. Singapore is Australia's biggest supplier of unleaded petrol. Anthony Albanese today said that relationships with regional partners are critical, particularly in uncertain times like these. And he said that Australia has a unique relationship with Singapore. As for the war in the Middle East, the government really has been focusing on shoring up supply of fuel. The Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, says that Australia has secured enough shipments of fuel until well into May. And he said that the number of service stations experiencing shortages had actually fallen over the Easter break. But of course, Ros, there are still a lot of unknowns over how the following months will play out. And it's clear that the Middle East war and the disruptions caused by it will be factored into the federal budget next month.